Good day, students. In this presentation, we will be focusing on the curriculum requirements and degree requirements for the ECD&Foundation specialization of the Bachelor of Education degree. So in other words, we're going to look at what the requirements are in order for you to be able to complete your degree and graduate. Now, the first thing you need to understand is about the credits. For the Bachelor of Education degree, the minimum number of credits that you have to obtain is 512. So if you, for some reason or other, have picked up a few extra credits, maybe you changed phase or you transferred in and applied for credits you didn't need, that's okay. We're not going to stress too much if you have too many credits, although it's not encouraged that you pick up more credits than you need. But 512 is the minimum. So you cannot graduate if you have less than 512. So please ensure that by the end of 2021, if you are in your fourth year and are on track to complete and graduate, please make sure that you will have 512 credits by the end of the year. Secondly, the BEd degree is a 4-year qualification. But what this actually means is that you have to be registered for the qualification for 8 semesters. Now, for most of you, if you started your degree 3 years ago and you've registered every semester for the last 3 years, you will have completed and registered 6 semesters already. So you will be going into semesters 7 and 8 this year, which is exactly what is required. So you are fine. The problem comes about if you missed a semester somewhere in the last 3 years. So maybe you only started the BEd degree in the second semester first year, or maybe you had some difficulties in second year and you missed out maybe the first semester of second year, or maybe you were ill and you missed out a semester last year. If you have not completed 6 semesters so far, or been registered for 6 semesters so far, so you are maybe going into your 6th and 7th semesters this year, then you cannot complete your degree this year. You will have to come back in 2022 to register for the outstanding semesters. Now, we do check this when we check you for degree complete. So you have to register or be registered for a minimum of 8 semesters in order to complete the qualification. For some of you, you could be doing 1 or 2 semesters more. That's okay. That happens. But you cannot have less. So you cannot complete this degree if you are only registered for 7 semesters. You have to be registered for 8. Now, if you are a transfer student, in other words, you started a different degree within the UKZN, or maybe you started a degree at another university and then transferred into the Bachelor of Education later. If you transferred in and you didn't apply for any exemptions, so you didn't apply to be recognized and be given credits for anything you had done in your previous qualification or previous institution, then when you came in, you had no semesters and no credits recognized by us on your academic record, and you are in the same position as students who started here at the beginning of first year as their first degree. You have to register 8 full semesters with us. If, however, you had completed and obtained credits in modules that were relevant to the BEd degree in your phase, then your situation is a little bit different. Then you might have applied for exemptions with credits from some of our modules. Now, if you only applied for exemptions and credits for 1 or 2 modules, then that's not going to affect the number of semesters that you have registered with us. But if you were recognized as bringing in and being exempt for 3 or more modules, then it is possible that we also recognized you as having been registered for 1 or more semesters. Now, these semesters that we recognize from other qualifications, they are referred to as deemed semesters. But we only recognize you as having a deemed semester if we recognize you as bringing credits into the degree. So if you did transfer into the B.Ed degree, into this qualification, and you applied for credits against modules in this particular specialization and we gave them to you, then it is possible that we recognized you as bringing in a semester as well. And those semesters then count towards the 8 required for the degree. Okay, so if you are a transfer student, you might want to just check up on that and see if you have any semesters recognized that will be counting towards your number of semesters registered. But for most of you, you will register for 8 semesters, a minimum of 8 in the B.Ed degree in order for you to be able to complete and qualify. Finally, each phase has a number of specific phase requirements, and these are outlined in the College of Humanities Handbook. Now, there are certain curriculum requirements that are common across the phases, but there are also differences. And this is where you need to be very careful. You need to understand the requirements for your specific phase. Don't worry about anybody else's requirements. That's their problem. They need to worry about that. You need to understand the requirements for your particular phase, because those are the requirements that we will be checking your academic record against to see whether or not you are degree complete. So that is what we are going to focus on in this presentation. What are the requirements for you in this phase in order for you to complete and graduate? Now, the first requirement relates to what we call core modules. And these are actually modules that are pretty much common to everybody. And the first of these are your education studies modules. So by now, you probably all, hopefully, have passed Education Studies 210, 220, 310 and 320. And you should be registering for EdStuds 410 and 420 this year. Secondly, we have the Professional Studies modules. So hopefully you have already passed Prof Studies 110, 120, 210. And this year you will be registering for your final Professional Studies module, which for your phase is Professional Studies 240. And that will be in the second semester. Then there is Teaching Practice. And again, you should have passed Teaching Practice 120, 220 and 320 already, and be registering for Teaching Practice 420 this year. Please note that if for some reason you are missing one of the first 3 Teaching Practice modules, most likely 320, then that is the one that you will have to register online this year. The 420 module, you would then have to liaise with Mrs. Van Wyk, the academic leader for Teaching Practice, about registering for that module. But online, you will register for then the Outstanding Teaching Practice module. In first year then, you should have completed and passed Computer Literacy, Academic Literacy in English, commonly referred to as ALE, and then the Compulsory Foundation module, which in your phase, you had to do Critical Inquiry and ECD. In the other phases, they get a choice of 5 modules. They choose one of 5. You did not have a choice. You were required to do Critical Inquiry in ECD. So please make sure that you have actually done and completed that module. And if not, maybe you started in the FET phase and transferred to ECD&Foundation in second year, then please speak to the staff in the ECD department about whether or not they still require you to do Critical Inquiry as well. Then, because you are teaching in the ECD&Foundation phase, you are obviously going to be language teachers, and you will be language teachers in 2 languages, the language of teaching and learning, as well as a second language. Now, currently, the initial teaching language is usually assumed to be English, although that's not true in your phase. You teach in the mother tongue of the learners. But for the purposes of the rules, you firstly have to do 2 modules in English. Now, one of them was ALE, academic literacy. Then the second one is either English language course, or ELC as we call it, or the module is English Communication 110. So you have to have passed one of these 2 modules. If you do both of them, that is also fine. You can do both of these because the content and outcomes of the modules are completely different. So it is possible to do both of these, but it is compulsory to do at least one of them. Then, for the second language, in terms of the BEd degree, second language refers to a language other than English. So in the BEd degree, this refers to either isiZulu, or it used to refer to Afrikaans as well. So you have to do 2 modules either in Zulu, or it was possible at one point to do them in Afrikaans. So if you are a mother tongue speaker of isiZulu, you will probably have completed communication in isiZulu 110 and 120. So you will have both of those. If you are not a mother tongue speaker of isiZulu, possibly a non-speaker, when you arrived in first year, then you would have done conversational isiZulu 110 as well as conversational isiZulu 120. So you need 2 modules in the same language. For students who started their degree quite a number of years back, we used to offer Afrikaans Communicasie as another option, and those students would have done Afrikaans Communicasie 110 as well as 120. So if you started your degree a few years back, left and have come back to complete, it is possible you would have both of those 2 modules over there. However, with language, you have to be careful because the requirement for 2 modules of English as well as 2 in a second language, that is a requirement of the Bachelor of Education degree. But the University of KwaZulu-Natal also has its own language policy in relation to isiZulu, and that is that every student registered for an undergraduate degree at UKZN has to complete 1 Zulu module. So it means that everybody has to have done either conversational isiZulu 110 or communication in isiZulu 110 if you registered at the university after that policy was implemented. So that is the language specialization or language requirements. Then we have the foundation phase specialist modules, and these are your primary mathematics 110 and 210, your language and literacy 210 and 220, as well as 320, which you will be registering for in first semester this year. And then there is learning area studies 320, which is the life skills learning area studies module, which is also registered this year. Then you have a whole suite of ECD specialist modules, all of which you should have completed by now. So that was your numeracy in the early years, reception year studies, issues and perspectives in ECD, understanding child development, integrated learning area studies, life skills, creative arts, and curriculum development in ECD. So these are done from first year up to third year. So you should all have completed them by now. If not, if any are outstanding, then you have to register them this year in order to complete your degree and graduate. Finally, in order to get to your 512 credits requirement, you have to pick up 3 additional modules that we refer to as elective modules. Now, an elective module is a module that you are picking up just for credits. So these are modules that you are taking in order to get to 512 credits. Now, there's only one rule, if you like, in relation to elective modules, and this is related to the math requirement. If you were doing core math or math literacy in grade 12, which you should all have been doing, but you didn't get a mark higher than 40%, so your mark was between 0 and 39%, then you are required to do basic mathematics. Okay, so in other words, if you did not pass math or maths literacy in grade 12 with a mark of 40% or higher, then you are required to do basic mathematics. So this is a requirement that we check very, very carefully when we check you for degree complete during ERS checking. Now, it is possible that instead of doing basic mathematics, you might have done Maths for Life and Teaching instead. This is the equivalent maths module that we offer to the senior FET and FET students. So again, if you started in one of those phases and you picked up Maths for Life and Teaching in first year and then switched to ECD&Foundation in second year, then we do recognize Maths for Life and Teaching as the required maths module. So basically, we look for either basic mathematics or Maths for Life and Teaching. If you did not get a mark of 40% or higher for either core mathematics or mathematical literacy in your grade 12 results. So please make sure that you meet that requirement. So if you had 40% or higher, no problem. But if your mark was under 40% in grade 12, or for some reason maybe you graduated before the CAPS curriculum, or matriculated rather, but before the CAPS curriculum came into effect, then you would have to do this basic mathematics module. So please make sure that you meet that requirement. If you do that module, then that replaces one of the electives. It counts as an elective module because it gives you 16 credits. Your other elective modules can literally be anything. There is no rule specified in the handbook about what the other elective modules are. So some students might elect to do additional primary mathematics modules. They might do primary math 310. Some students might choose to do an FET content modules or a senior phase learning area studies modules. Some of you might elect to do both ELC and English Com 110. Some of you might choose to do a second foundation module. Okay, it really does not matter what the other electives are. We don't check what you have done, but we do check that you meet the math requirement. So ladies and gentlemen, please compare your curriculum thus far from first, second and third year with what I've specified here. Identify any gaps, any modules that are outstanding, and try to register for them this year. So hopefully you will be on track to complete your degree and graduate at the end of 2021. Good luck.